It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job, episode 140 today. My name is Mike. That's Brian.
Yo.
Today, our episode is brought to you by the Buildsters. Check out thebuildsters.com to find out how you can become an accredited Buildsters Pro member today. You'll instantly become a part of a network of the best suppliers, manufacturers, and contractors in the industry, where you'll have the ability to showcase your work to thousands of qualified buyers. Stop paying for leads that don't convert and become a Buildsters Pro member today. Our guest today, Russell Roberts, General Superintendent at Rod Heisler Construction. Did we get all that right?
You did. Yes, sir.
Perfect. Fantastic.
Hey, Russell. How's it
How
going,
you doing
man?
today?
I'm doing well, man. How are you guys? It's good.
Good.
To see you.
Good.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time here with us today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. So, give us your story. Want to know how you got into this, how you got to where you are today, and I know we chatted a little bit offline, but let's let the people hear it. Find out who you are.
Yeah. So originally from San Diego, raised in San Diego, spent my whole life down there, including college. I went to junior college down there, and then went into the Navy. Did a short stint in the Navy, got out, and was kind of at a crossroads. Didn't know what I was going to do, and I had some connections back in the Midwest, specifically in Ohio, which led me back there. I did grow up in a construction family. Everyone on my mom's side are all drywall finishers, carpenters, metal stud hangers. And then on my dad's side, they're all electricians. So I kind of got it naturally.
Yeah.
So I got it both sides.
How crazy is that?
So,
Both sides.
Yeah.
yeah. I kind of, growing up, I scrapped drywall from the time I was 12, 13 years old until, I eventually was able to pick up a knife, and they actually let me touch some drywall at about 15 or 16. But once I got out of the Navy, headed back to Ohio, took a job back there as a superintendent. I had a really good friend who thought I'd be a good candidate for superintendent. So I took him up on the offer. I didn't know what I was going to do at that point. I'd kind of set my life up to be in the military for the duration. That didn't work out. Life throws wrenches at you, as it usually does. So I went out there to Ohio, became a superintendent, went to work for a great company, fantastic company. I spent 12 years with them, and made it all the way through the 2007 to 2010 downturn. I was one of the last guys there in 2012, and finally got my layoff letter. So at that point, I kind of went out on my own.
Bit, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty good that I made it through it, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I was one of the last guys there that was making big money, one of the last senior superintendents at the company, and I'd seen everybody that was making more money than me get laid off up to that point. So I kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah, you knew it was coming.
Yep, it was coming. And they were a great company, a really good outfit. I learned a lot there. They gave me some really good opportunities, and so I'm very appreciative of that. But it was also, just an opportunity for me to take another step in life and, hit the left turn on that fork in the road and move on to the next thing. And so I met my wife there in Ohio. She actually worked for the company that I went to work for out there, which is how we met, which was wonderful. She was in accounting in the construction division. So we did that. After I got laid off in 2012, I kind of went out on my own and built my own little high-end remodeling company. I did that for about 2.5, 3 years as a general contractor there in Ohio. And I just had a calling to get back home, man. I was, I'm from San Diego. I've been raised there, and, the Midwest is a big culture shock. And fortunately for me, those 12 years that I spent working in Ohio, a very short period of that time was actually in Ohio. I traveled all over. So I just mentioned to you a couple minutes ago, Mike, that I was in Philadelphia. I spent about 2 years in Philadelphia. I actually spent about 2.5 years, 3 years here in the San Francisco Bay Area, pretty much in the town that I'm living in right now, doing a big project, big mall project. Spent a couple years in Iowa, spent about 3 years in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh to be specific, and then Philadelphia. So yeah, we've traveled all over. And
was this all while you were working out in Ohio?
Yeah, we were based out of Ohio. Yeah, I worked for a great
yeah.
company, Continental Building Company. I don't know if I can mention them or not, but
Yeah, of course.
yeah, they're a great organization. It was Continental Building Systems when I worked for them. They've since been sold, and it's Continental Building Company. They merged with Cornick Cosing, another big organization there in Central Ohio. But they were just a great outfit. So they were actually a real estate developer. They bought property, acquired property all over the country, and then they would develop it. So they hired a construction company or built a construction company to be their developers and their builders, which was our side of the house. So did that for a number of years, started my own company. After a couple of years of doing that, I just felt the calling to come home, and I was getting more and more homesick. Most of my family was out here in the West Coast, both from the Bay Area down to San Diego. Mm-hmm. So my wife and I discussed it, extensively, and decided we wanted to make the move. I had a really good friend who had an outdoor landscaping company who was interested in buying me out there in Ohio, and he did. So we packed up and relocated back to San Diego, and I went to work for a great company in San Diego when I got here. Actually, I went to work for Gray Construction for about a year.
Oh, we actually had
yeah.
Bob Moore on here.
Yeah. And then shortly, I've been worked for them for about a year, and then I got hired on by a company by the name of Bicor down in San Diego, who is another great outfit. They have a really good reputation. Worked for those guys for about 3 or 4 years, and Rod Heisler just kind of sought me out, found me, and recruited me, and here I am.
And pulled you all the way from San Diego all the way up north, huh?
Yeah, to be honest with you, we had kind of been, it was a very weird year, 2020 with the COVID, with the pandemic and everything that was going on. And there were some other things going on in the world that were affecting me and my family. So everything just kind of came together. It was just a very weird time and some really good opportunities. And we had the opportunity to come back up here. But going back to 2007 to 2010, we were actually in Brentwood, where we're at now. I built a shopping center out here, a big $150 million project. I was a senior superintendent on that project. And we fell in love with the area. We really liked it up here. As a matter of fact, my wife made some lifelong friends here. We'd come back up several times for vacation so she could visit friends. We could visit the area. It was just kind of a calling for us to be up here. My middle daughter, I had 3 daughters. My middle daughter was actually born in this area. So when Rod Heisler came calling, it's kind of a no-brainer. We'd always talked about getting back up here. We just couldn't really find the right fit for us. And once we were here and tied in with those guys, it was, and everything's great. They're a great outfit, perfect fit for me. I got an opportunity as a superintendent when I was very young, and I knew that. And I'm kind of a goal-oriented individual. So I knew that getting into superintendent position in my late 20s, I was going to be a pretty old ratchet superintendent in my 40s, still walking the concrete. And, and if I kept on doing it, by the time I retired at 60, I'd be doing this for 40 years. So I kind of set my mind that general superintendent was always the goal that I wanted to hit, always the goal that I wanted to achieve. I'm not much of an office person, as you can see now. I spend my Mondays working from home just to be a little more productive. I'm very easily distracted. So it's nice for me to kind of get away from that and kind of focus on my goals and my weekly goals and get those things done pretty quick. But going back to what I was saying is we'd always had an aspiration to get back up here, and it just worked out. The opportunity kind of fell in my lap as a general superintendent, something I've striven for since the beginning of my career. And it was just a great opportunity. I'm with a great company. I'm big on mentoring and coaching guys, and I really get an opportunity to do that here. And that's really fulfilling for me, especially now that I'm in my late 40s, closer to 50, but in my late 40s. It's nice to be able to give back a little bit and have the opportunity to teach the guys.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I think it's fun to like working for that company, right? It was a Continental out in Ohio, like kind of experiencing all those different places all over the country, right? And kind of finding your home, right? Being able to kind of live there for a little bit at a time and kind of, experience that area before obviously moving on to a different.
Yeah, absolutely. It was twofold. It gave us the opportunity to travel the country and see the country, and also gave me a great, just the multitude of experience in different areas, different regions. So I can say that I built pretty much from coast to coast, north to south. I even built some stuff in Idaho. I've been down, worked on a few stores for Gray down in Houston. So, being able to be in those different municipalities and experience those different principles and codes and, how they enforce that. But then also, as you said, seeing different parts of the country and knowing what fits me and what fits my family.
Right.
We're just a good old country family. My kids are into horses. I rodeoed a bunch when I was young. So
that's awesome.
We're in a good country town now, which is far apart from San Diego. So it was a great fit, man. It was a godsend for us for sure. We're happy to be here.
That's cool. So going back to the very beginning, right? Coming out of the Navy, by the way, thank you for your service. We didn't get to say that. Thank you very much. But coming out and I think you said you had a friend that said, hey, you might be good at a superintendent role. What was that transition like, or that learning curve, or just kind of being thrown into that, right? Obviously you have an experience or an understanding of the industry, right? From your parents, but your families, but I mean, that's a whole nother level, right? Going from the labor side to being a superintendent.
It absolutely was. Being a superintendent, I think, is the number one principle that you can carry with you to help you be successful is leadership. So that's one of the aspects I got from my ROTC years, and then through the Navy was my leadership.
Yeah, I was going to say probably,
and that's really what made me a strong candidate for that position. And then on top of that, I was really fortunate to get linked up with a mentor who was a great guy. He was really, really, really hard on me. There were many days where I wanted to wring his neck, and I didn't really care for him. But I look back on it now as I mentor my guys. I actually was reflecting with one of my younger superintendents the other day that I had a really strong superintendent who mentored me and really took the time to show me the ropes. And although there were days where I really couldn't stand the guy, I really didn't like him, I can look back on different experiences I had where he actually took the time to teach me things. For example, we were looking at a project right across the street from one of our projects in San Francisco, and they were driving piles. And although I haven't driven piles in over a decade, as a very young superintendent, I got the opportunity to experience that on a project with my mentor, and he took the time to explain to me, hey, this is what happens. This is when the hammer blows, and this is why it blows. And you drive to resistance, or you drive to you can't go any further, and then you have a set some number of blows to go after that. And he really took the time to invest into me, which really affected my career. And so in turn, I try to do the same thing. I try to really invest in my guys. I'm really big on continuing education and setting goals and making sure we're continuously learning. We're in such a, in construction, we're in such a great age right now where we have technology at our fingertips that, I try to tell my guys all the time, you're never going to be the smartest guy when you walk into the room, especially when you walk into a room full of plumbers or electricians. Those guys have, if each one of those guys has 10 years of experience, you've got 100 years of experience compared to your 5, 10, 15 years of experience. So you're never going to be the smartest guy, but the best thing you can do is take advantage of the technology that's at your fingertips. If they're talking about something that you don't know, ask the question, find out what they're talking about and figure it out. And if you're not comfortable doing that, go back to your computer, go back to your desk and Google it.
Yep.
Just continue to educate yourself and know, every aspect of your trade. And that's one of the major benefits that I got from my mentor as a young superintendent. So it was a very good opportunity.
Well, and I feel like especially today and really in the last 15 years or so, 20 years, I mean, prior to that, I mean, that kind of knowledge was not available, at the touch of a button. Right. So to be able to have that advantage and to be able to basically teach these guys to be able to use that. Right. Because I remember as a kid, I mean, I grew up in the 80s. So and I'm a musician on the side. And so if I wanted to learn anything with the guitar, you had to be Johnny on the spot and be able to record it right on the radio. And if you didn't, you missed it. And then you couldn't slow that down. You had to deal with it, right? Especially guitar solos, all that stuff. Not that people listening care about that. The point being is that the technology that's out today, the fact that we can access that kind of information that
in
quickly,
seconds,
which to my point in all this is just because it's available doesn't mean people use it.
Right.
In fact, probably more so people don't use it as much because, it's like, we'll get to it. There's just an inundation of information, but the fact that these guys have you to be able to coach them, to be able to show them and how to, and when to access that to certain kind of information, I think it's huge. It's huge because those guys are going to remember it 15, 20 years down the line. They're going to be like, remember, I had Russell was my mentor and he was hard on me, but I was able to get through just like your guy was hard on you and you can look back. So that's gold, man. That's super cool.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And furthermore, that we live in such an industry, with Procore and these other systems that are out there. There are so many tools, right at our fingertips. Simpson. My guys are always blown away that, again, I'm big on continuing education. So although I have weekly superintendents meetings and then I hold quarterly superintendents meetings with all my guys and we go a little more in depth with issues and things and challenges that we're experiencing on the job site on a regular basis. But, once a week, once every 2 weeks, I'm sending guys out, hey, here's a course you can take that's free. And, you check this out. And Simpson XP, which is a great product that we all are very familiar with. Every one of us as a superintendent has used it or will use it on one of our construction sites. But they have a whole library, a plethora of information, courses that you can just go and study and learn about. Just everything. It's not just, sealants and caulks and adhesives. It's pretty much everything, their hold down clips and their fasteners and, and that ventures off into other things. And guys just haven't taken the time to understand that or to research that, to know that it's available to them. So I do my best to make sure my young guys understand that. And I prompt them by sending them things once a week or once every 2 weeks. Hey, check this out. I actually have a superintendent. I won't mention him by name, but he's a new superintendent for me. And, I just happen to notice that he's kind of struggling with his typing skills. I mean, he gets along pretty well, but, he's not as fast as maybe some of us guys that are more experienced. And, I would never bring it up to him, because I could care less. As long as you can get your work done, you can get it done. It's none of my business how well you type. But it was really frustrating to him. And some of the time that we were spending on the job site, I could see that it was frustrating him. So I got back to my office and a couple of days later, I just happened to send him a free typing course that I've sent to other guys before and said, hey man, check this out. Maybe this will help you if you're interested. And if you're not, it's not mandatory. I'm not, trying to encourage you to do it. I'm not saying that, you have to improve your typing skills, but if you want to get better, because that's what we should want to do, right? We should want to get better in everything we do. If you want to get better, here's a course. And, he was ecstatic. Like no one's ever taken that time to invest into him and to, maybe research and find a product that would help him and be beneficial to his future and his family. That's what it's all about for us. I care about my guys and I care about their families, and I want my guys to succeed. And when they succeed, hopefully their families will succeed as well.
Well, and doing that kind of stuff too, I feel like it probably gives you quite a bit of insight as to what kind of people you have working for you, right? If you're not making this stuff mandatory and you're not saying you have to do this and you have to read this and you have to take this course, but you're sending this stuff out and you're seeing who is doing it, right? I mean, it's a huge, like I said, insight to kind of what kind of people you have working for you.
That's absolutely correct. That's 100% correct. Yes, sir.
That's got to be
a good
cool.
evaluation.
So what kind of work do you guys do there at Rod Heisler? Is there something you are specifically kind of specialized in there, or do you guys?
No, not at all. We'll pretty much take on anything. Not unlike, we talked about this a little bit, Mike, that you guys had the CNC Morelos from, and I'm butchering that name, I apologize, from Glazing Concepts Incorporated, like those guys, don't pass up any work. We're the same way. We mostly get into high-end residential, very high-end residential, and then commercial. I've got a $20 million project in San Francisco right now. I've got $1 million residential kitchen remodel that's getting ready to start up. So we'll tackle anything that comes our way.
That's fun.
A $1 million kitchen remodel.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Actually, when you guys reached out to me a couple minutes ago, I was actually doing a page turn with the superintendent's going to be on that project. We were actually just flipping the pages, looking at, what are going to be our challenges. I love to do that. Again, I like to jump in the trenches with my guys. I'm big on, not to get off on a tangent, but I'm not big on titles. I don't like to carry titles. I don't like my guys to call me boss, when they refer to me. I don't like them to see me as their superior. Obviously, we understand what the hierarchy is and how our chain of command goes, but titles don't really carry much weight with me, and so I like to be in the trenches with my guys. And one of the things we'll do when we start a job is we'll get down in the drawings, and we'll flip pages, and we'll look at every detail. We'll read every note together and make sure that we both have a good understanding of the project and that nothing gets missed. I want to be able to be there for my guys. And of course, my job is to mentor them. So if something comes up that we missed, I want them to be able to come to me openly and honestly and say, hey, we didn't catch this, or I didn't catch this. What do we do about this? And how do we address it? And the only way you do that is to really get in there with those guys, I think. And
I was going to say that probably, being in there with them helps open that door when something does get missed. Cause it's not like hey, you missed this because it was your job and you did it by yourself. It's, we were in this together and we missed it. Like, how do we fix it? How do we move forward and get it done?
Yeah. Right. And I've been there. I've been a superintendent for 21 years now. So I've had those general superintendents that, all they cared about was a title, and being the boss and running around puffing their chest out and yelling and screaming, you're going to do it this way and you're going to do it that way. And, it's my way or the highway, and micromanaging you. And it absolutely was a miserable experience, and it didn't help me grow at all. Mm-hmm. So in those periods of my career, what I had to do to grow is I had to go out and dig it up myself. And I never wanted to be that guy. And I tell my guys, when I hired on with Heisler, I went through and met every single superintendent that he had, and I made sure that they bought in, that we sat down together privately away from Rod to make sure that those guys were buying into what I was selling and that they wanted to work with me. And if there was one guy that said, no, hey, I don't think I can work with you, I probably would have passed in this position, just because I'm here to teach those guys. I'm not here to, to make more money, although that's the ultimate goal for everyone, obviously, is we want to improve our life or quality of life. But, I'm here to train and to teach. And that's where my joy and satisfaction comes in construction.
That's awesome. Yeah. So kind of take us through, obviously, from when you started to where you are now, technology, just all of that stuff has come light years, right? And mainly in the last few years. Obviously, education sounds like a big part of it. Was there anything that you did or a mindset that you had or something just to kind of get you through that transition? Because I feel like there's a lot of people, obviously a little bit older than you probably, that are struggling with that, right? Maybe didn't want to get on the board with technology and all the other things as it's coming along, and now they're either being phased out or forced to, right? And so they kind of have that grumpy mindset, like, I don't want to be doing this, but I have to. But it sounds like obviously you embraced it. So I mean, what was that transition period like, or how did it work for you?
Really, I got in at a good time. The early 2000s, I started as a superintendent in the year 2000. So that was kind of, that was the Y2K year. Right, so that was just when technology and internet were kind of ramping up. And I'm a sponge. I always have been. I love to read. I love to study. So that was really, a great opportunity for me as soon as the internet came out. And I was always that guy. I tell my guys, I'm not going to pass something on to you that I haven't done myself or experienced myself, or something that I haven't studied myself. I'm not just going to I'm not going to give you lip service. I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to be there in the trenches with you. And if I tell you something, you could pretty much take it to heart that I've experienced that, or that I've seen that happen before, or I've been involved with something like that. So I'm speaking from education or experience. So for me, one of the things that I did is if I was in a room with those guys, when I talked about the plumbers and electricians that had 100 years more experience than me, if they were talking about something that I didn't know and I wasn't comfortable approaching them, I always tried to build relationships with my subs. But if we were in a tight meeting and the owner, the OAC might be there, or the owner's rep might be there, and I couldn't pull them aside and said, "Hey, what are you talking about here?" I would make myself a little note, and then I would get back to my computer. And it might not be during working hours; it might be when I'm laying in bed at night, and it might click in my head that, "Hey, you wanted to check this out. You wanted to look this up." I would literally go and Google it or research it and study it and find out whatever I could and the most I could about that particular scope, item, trade, whatever it may be, and just learn it myself. And really that gives me the opportunity, because it was such a good experience, and I had to dive so deep into it. It really opened up those doors for me to be able to teach that. We hear a lot the term SME, or subject matter expert, and there's a lot of those, especially in construction.
Yep.
And I don't want to be that guy. I'd rather be subject matter expert on experience, sharing my experiences with guys. And the only way you get that is really dive in deep, not just listen to someone teach you or explain it to you, but actually dive in deep and get the information yourself.
So, I mean, kind of piggybacking off of that, in terms of, you had mentioned that comes more, it sounds like more natural. And it kind of sounds like what you mentioned earlier about basically every day trying to get better at everything that you do, or at least, improving. Was that something that you grew up with? Is that a family thing because you grew up in family contractors? Is that natural to you, or was that something you learned while you were in the military? Where did that trait come about? Was that learned or natural?
Kind of a combination of both. Again, like I said, I'm big on leadership. So I spent, most of my adult career studying leadership and how to be a better leader. But it's funny you should bring that up. That's one of my life mottos. And that's one of the things that I teach my guys is we just have to be better today than we were yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow we're going to be better than we were today, right? If it's just one minor thing, right? As long as we're better, we're moving forward and we're getting better, we're improving and we're developing. And that's so huge for me. But again, going back to your question, I think it's a combination of all those things. I grew up primarily in the home with my grandparents. I grew up a very poor kid and disadvantaged kid, and I spent a lot of time in my grandparents' home. Essentially, they did most of my raising, or they played a huge part in raising me as a young man. My grandfather was very strict. He was a Korean War vet, and down there in San Diego, he worked for Sanyo, so he was a manager for a plant down there, and he had very strict rules, and he lived in the old days and the old ways, and you did everything right. When he came home from work, my chores better be done, and if they weren't, then there wasn't any bashing or beating. It was just simple. Hey, the rules are you don't go anywhere. You're staying home. And as a young teenager, I wanted to go places, so I made sure that my chores were done, and I was always trying to improve and get better. And ROTC played a huge part in that. And then obviously the Navy. And I had some really successful leaders that were able to pour into me and give me the opportunity to pour out into other guys. So
chores,
I take that very serious.
Chores are a thing of the past, right? I feel like that's
no. I got two kids.
I got no. I know. I just mean just in generality,
in today's
right?
Culture.
Like it's a lost art.
True.
But
Yeah, my kids talk to their friends at church or whatever about their chores, and they're like, "What? You do
what?
What is that?
How do you spell
that? Call the police."
But I mean, and I have to imagine you can kind of see, like, being the mentor, right, and bringing those younger guys in, you can kind of see some of those traits, whether or not they were instilled in them, at a young age.
Absolutely.
Or not.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
and there's nothing more rewarding than seeing a guy finally click in his head, whether it be a technical aspect of his job in construction, or whether it be, how he approaches his subs, or just anything. Seeing those things, that mentality of we're going to get better tomorrow than we were today. Seeing those things click in their head, it's just, that's the most rewarding thing for me in construction.
Yeah.
Seeing guys finally get it and then just own it and build on it.
So doing the high end residential, I have a couple clients that do that stuff pretty extensively as well. I know that it's a very what do I want to say? The clientele is special and very particular. Do you guys self-perform anything, or is it all subbed out?
We do have a couple of we have a few carpenters on staff right now, but that's mostly for safety stuff and pickup work. But no, we don't. We sub essentially everything out.
So finding those subs, I know it's got to be pretty tough. Finding and maintaining relationships with subs that can kind of keep up with that kind of work and do that to that level.
Absolutely, especially in the Bay Area where the market's so dense and the skill levels are so sporadic and varied.
Right.
There's a wide gap in that. But we're big on, I couldn't have connected with a better bunch of guys. I mean, we're just big on relationships. We're big on, again, all of the things that I embolden or embody as a superintendent and as a leader. Rod, our owner, is fully on board with that. Our office staff, Tony, and my project manager, Brian, and all of my guys below those guys are just phenomenal. We all buy into it. We're all very open. We sit down and we have very candid meetings, which I think is huge. Communication is the biggest thing that you can have in construction. And we have those difficult conversations when it's necessary. We don't walk out of there with hurt feelings or tail tucked or anything like that. It's just part of the job. And that culture transfers itself in everything that you do. It transfers itself down to the people who work for you, and it obviously transfers to your subs. So we've been able to surround ourselves with a really good group of subs that kind of follow us around and perform our work for us. And when we fall down, we do that. We have those difficult conversations. I'm having that conversation with a sub right now that fell down pretty hard for us on a previous project. And it's a very difficult conversation because when you're talking about money and people are talking about losing money, sometimes tempers can flare, and there can be some hurt feelings, there can be some grudges had, but I think it's important for you to have those candid, open conversations and the difficult ones, and explain to how we can get better. And ultimately that's our goal. And if they're not a company that wants to come along with us and say, hey, we're going to get better tomorrow than we were today, right? If they're not going to embody that principle that we hold true, then really we can't really use them in the future. We shouldn't use them, right? Because the shame is on us if things fall down in the future and we continue to use those same subs. But again, luckily I think that's lost not only in society, but especially in construction today. Everyone wants to avoid the difficult conversation, and that just can't be had. I mean, we see the results of that in our world today, right? Is just because people didn't have the difficult conversation, the conversations that needed to be had. And when you do that and you get everything out in the open, then it's, more often than not, you find out that things were a misunderstanding, and it's not it's not always one particular person's fault or one particular sub's fault. It's usually a calamity of errors, right? When you start to unpack it and you have those difficult conversations, you can kind of see, okay, well, this guy kind of let us down over here, this guy kind of let us down here, and this guy let us down here, and that kind of combined to make the perfect storm, right? So you find out that it wasn't just that one sub. It was a whole collection of errors that collected, to kind of hamper this guy. And when you have those conversations, say, hey, you know what? Okay, we're going to pick this up and we're going to get better on the next job, right? Yeah. And you just worked and strive to do that.
Well, and I think more than not wanting to have the difficult conversation, I think the mindset is more that they want to just. The mindset is more. Here's my feeling and my issue, and there's no listening, right? There's nothing on the other side. So it's there's obviously avoiding it altogether, and then there's that aspect of let me shove my aspect or my issues down your throat, but no, I don't want to listen to anything else, and kind of walk away.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's typical. I see you've been in construction for a while.
Well, I mean, back to what you said. I mean, that's society too, right? I mean, that's just kind of the world we live in right now, which is unfortunate. But nobody wants to listen. They want to just, project all of their feelings and their issues, and not be the listening part, not do the listening part very well or at all.
But if you find good partners that keep short accounts, right, to what your point is, like you have the difficult conversations when they need to be had rather than letting them kind of go on before everything explodes. You have those short account meetings. It changes the culture, and all of a sudden those subs are an extension of you, right? In a good way.
Yes, sir.
And they're trustworthy, and you can continue to use them.
Well, and you hope it translates to their relationships with their other partners, right? Whether it's you and not just you guys, right? Like,
yeah, that's absolutely true, because we're all in this together, right? I mean, our industry is either going to suffer or it's going to grow together. I read a very interesting statistic in a course that I took just a few months ago, or I heard a statistic, and it was something like by the year 2030, and I'm probably butchering this, but it was somewhere along this line. And by the year 2030, the construction industry is going to grow by 35%, which is phenomenal.
Dang, man.
Like, could you imagine? Like, that is unbelievable. And if that's in fact true, like, we've got to do better about how we're growing this industry and how we're growing ourselves as partners together, all of our subs and other GCs in the area. And, we have high aspirations of being like some of the larger GCs, DPR, Turners, or, Level 10. And, we hope that those guys will mentor us and help us to get to that level. And, again, we're all in this together. So
it just makes the whole industry better. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And I think that's what's good about kind of the generation that's coming into construction right now, or has been in it, but not for a long time, right? Because the good old boy mentality and the guys that were been around, the older generation that's kind of phasing out right now, their mentality was like, hey, this is my business, my work.
Mhm.
I figured out how to do this. I don't really want to share it with anybody else because that's competition, right? But I think the collaborative mentality and that mindset of, hey, we all need to grow together, I think is coming along. It's obviously can do better, but
Yes, sir.
it's definitely becoming part of the industry right now, which is fun to watch for sure.
Yep.
So what is your role on a day-to-day there? Obviously mentorship and education sounds like a huge piece of it, but are there other responsibilities you have there?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're a growing company, and again, another principle that I live by and really apply to my day-to-day activities is just to fill the gap. So, and I try to instill that in my
like
guys.
that.
I try
Fill
to
the
make
gap.
sure that I like to make sure my guys understand that. If you see a gap, it's we're not the kind of organization where we start pointing fingers. Well, it was him or it was him, and or this guy should have taken care of that, or he's going to come and get it later. If you see a gap, just jump in and fill it, man. Whether it's right or wrong, just fill the gap, and you'll never hear from me if you're doing that. Whether it is right or wrong. Hopefully it's right, but sometimes you're going to jump in, and I've done this myself. I've jumped in to fill the gap, and I did the wrong thing, but I was at least there to fill the gap, and the gap didn't grow, right? So I'm big on that. So I pretty much fill any role. Sometimes I work with my estimators and help those guys out, soliciting bids or putting SOVs together. Sometimes I'll manage my carpenters. Other times I'll jump into the PM role in a position if all of my PMs are really busy and they're swamped and we have an issue come up and things along that line. I'll jump in with OAC meetings. So essentially it's, I would say my role is more of a director of operations, more of a general superintendent right now, but it's kind of fluid. I hold the title of general superintendent, but I fill a lot of heads, a lot of roles here. I wear a lot of helmets in this company, which is great. That also gives me an opportunity to grow and, again, fill the gap. And everybody really wants that. You want to feel useful, right? I mean, that's kind of your goal in life, is to be useful and to be proud of what you've done. And anytime you get to do that, jump in there and fill the gap and help out. It's always a really good feeling. At the end of the day, you feel like you've gone home and accomplished something.
I love that mentality.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah,
you need. That's what you need to get on your hat. Fill the gap.
There you go.
Put it on all your guys' shirts for sure. That's fun.
Yes, sir.
So, what do you guys? Where are you guys finding most of your work? It sounds like a lot of it's private, right? Are there relationships or what's?
I would say most of it is relationship. We do have an estimator who does a great job. Steven is fantastic, really smart guy, and he's bidding a lot of work. And I don't know how he does it. I mean, he's got so much on his plate. And again, that's one of the areas where if I can, he never needs my help, but if I can, I want to jump in and help him as best I can. But we bid a lot of work, and so we gained some of our work that way. And the rest of it's relationships. We have some really strong relationships with design teams, being architects and owners. And that's really good to have in San Francisco because there's always something going on. This is one of those markets like Los Angeles where there's always building going on. It's almost, I don't want to say recession proof, but it's almost recession proof. Someone's always going to be doing something. They're going to remember what you did for them the last job, right? So again, that comes that culture of being a team, filling that gap, and just continue to educate yourself and be better tomorrow than you were today.
Are you guys doing anything? So one thing we like to kind of talk about with, and I'm not sure, maybe this is one of those helmets you wear or a gap you filled in the past, but from a marketing standpoint, are there things you guys are doing? Or obviously your website looks awesome. I think it's a very clean and nice website, but social media or any of those kind of things, are there things you guys are doing to kind of put yourselves out there?
We are trying to make more of build a bigger presence on social media. We've got an outside web designer who works on our webpage, obviously, as you can tell, because that's not in-house. It's not us. That's construction guys doing that. And he's also working on Instagram page, which is just kind of up and going. I'm not on Facebook, so I can't really tell you what our plans are going forward there. But as I drift farther into the company, as I gain a little more experience, I'll probably kind of tackle that as well. That'll probably be one of the helmets I wear, is to drive that, because I do understand the importance of it and how critical it can be. When I had my own company, I would say probably 40 to 50% of the business that I collected was through Facebook, which was amazing.
Dang,
and I didn't even have a personal page on Facebook. It was just a business page.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, we talk about it all the time on this show, but there's definitely niches in some industries that obviously tend to kind of lean that way more than others, but more than anything else. And your website is a great example of the work, being able to kind of have a digital portfolio, if you will, of past work that you guys have done and be able to show that off as a resume, if you will, kind of going into some of those newer relationships, that
especially on the residential.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Very fun. So what does the future look like for you guys? I mean, it sounds like you're growing. What are your aspirations personally inside this company? What are the company's goals?
Yeah, we are growing. We're growing leaps and bounds. I had, this was just a great opportunity for me to get in at a really good time. I see a very bright future for us, and really my aspirations for us to get to that level where we're the size of a DPR or a level 10 or a Turner. And I fully understand that those days are probably those days are going to be longer than my days. It's probably going to be 20 or 30 years before we get to that level, but I have an opportunity again to be an integral part of that development. And I intend to do the best that I can to help out in that regard. Rod he's just a great guy. He's a great owner. I love working for the guy, and he's also very fluid. He shares a lot of the same mentality as I do. Is let's just see where we go. Let's see where this takes us. But we got to get better every day. We have to get better. We can't stay stagnant, and we can't look at the past. We've got to look forward and keep putting one foot in front of the other. And that's our biggest thing. And I think when you have those mentalities and you surround yourself with people like that, the sky's the limit, right? So we can really do anything that we want to do. Our focus is mostly on commercial work going forward. Really, that's my background. That's the direction that Rod wants to go. I've built up to $150 million projects. The project that I was doing with Glazing Concepts was a $90 million project, and $60 million of that was mine. So I have a lot of good experience with some really big work, and I really enjoy that. Site work is really my love. I love site work more than anything. I think it's just so technical, and which is crazy because I was never a math guy in school, but the math that goes into site work, your grades and elevations and stations and points are just phenomenal. So my hope is to get into bigger work where we get an opportunity to do that work where I can actually shine and show my guys, teach my guys that stuff every chance I get. We'll do a small TI, a little restaurant or a remodel in a coffee shop, and I'll have my builder's level out, just for the concrete floor, and I'm shooting grades with my guys just to teach them, So
the guys are like, Russell, this is like a $10,000 job. What are we doing?
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking for the opportunity that we get in the very near future to do some work like that, and we're definitely heading in that direction.
Well, if it doesn't, if our show doesn't bore you too much, you should check out my uncle's episode too. He's a senior superintendent for Robbins of Morton, but they do huge hotels and hospitals and that kind of stuff out in Miami. But he's been around forever doing what you do, and I think you guys along the same wavelengths for sure. It'd be fun for you for sure. Awesome. Well, we appreciate the time, man. It's been awesome. Want to let you run and get on with your day and figure out the rest of your Monday, but let the people know where to find you guys.
We are rodheisler.com is our website. And we're located in Oakland. You can reach us on the website. We have our phone numbers and all of our contact info is there. You can also find my email address as well as Rod's email address. He's a very approachable guy. He's a great guy. Actually, if you just want to have a conversation or drink a beer, he's the guy to go to. But check us out on the web at rodheisler.com. And we're here to suit any needs that you might need in the construction industry. And I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come on and just kind of share some little few things about us and a few things about my past and my history. You guys have a great podcast. I've been listening to I do a lot of driving back and forth into the city, so I've had an opportunity to listen to a lot of your podcasts.
Okay,
I really enjoy it. This was something that was really missing in the construction industry, and I'm glad to see you guys getting it out there, and hopefully to draw some of these younger kids in. That's kind of where we're missing the mark right now, right?
That's we're a huge part of this, for sure.
We're not transitioning those kids out of shop, as you and I when we were younger. Probably, I'm not sure about you guys, but definitely for me, when we had weld shop and wood shop in high school.
I had that. Oh yeah.
Transferring out into the real world and getting a job in a trade. We don't see much of that today, and that again is one of my focuses, and especially for the young men and women out there. If you're in high school and you happen to catch this podcast and you're interested in finding out about construction, I'm always willing to bend your ear and to kind of give you guys an idea of the direction that you might want to go, and kind of explain to you some of the opportunities that are available to you out there. It's a great career to get into. The sky's the limit, and if what I just read was true, it's only going to get better in the future years. So
for sure.
I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I'm definitely looking forward to mentoring and bringing in some of the younger people and helping them get the rewards out of the career that I've gotten.
Awesome, Russell.
Yeah, thanks so much for the time. Well, if you make it down this way, make sure you let us know.
I'm down there all the time, man. I'm a Padre fan, and
are you really?
Just beat up on your Dodgers, so
well, I'm an Angels fan, so I don't
catch a game really quick here. So
awesome, man. Well, we'll keep in touch, man. Stay safe out there. We appreciate it.
Hey guys, I really appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Russell. Appreciate it.
All right, bye for now.
All right, bye.
And we're out. Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.